Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Super Jesus Jackson channel. It's your favorite man-child, of course, me. Spirit came out in 2002, the animated horse movie, I guess we'll call it. Academy Award nominated film, if you can believe it. Matt Damon as the titular Stallion. It is a movie that I saw when I was a kid. It is so nostalgic to me. It's one of those where I remember the music a little bit, here I am, this is me, the Bryan Adams iconic score. And then I found out Hans Zimmer wrote the orchestral score to the movie, which is awesome and it makes so much sense. The cinematography, I faintly remember here and there. The story, I remember it being a very emotionally powerful movie, even since when I watched it when I was a kid. That's what I remember it being. And it's one of those things where I'm afraid to kind of visit it in my adulthood because I'm curious as to whether it'll hold up or not. Lo and behold, I watched it yesterday with my girlfriend, and boy, does Spirit hold up. It holds up in such a good way, and so many scenes of it, I was like, this is incredible, this is incredible. The cinematography is amazing. The story is very simple, it's a children's movie, of course, but it is very, very effective, and it has some adult themes in there. The movie is set in the 19th century, sort of Western Old West, and, you got a lot of themes in there of the United States Army and its conflict with Native American tribes. And the whole protagonist sort of being this free stallion that no matter what, when it gets chained or when it gets ridden, it always wants to be free. And it's obviously a metaphor to the struggle of Native Americans, but also the struggle of wildlife in general, right? And urban expansion. And so, those are very adult aspects, and the movie, I think, was very courageous in it being a children's movie. Now, it's not necessarily unique to have very serious context within children's films. We've seen it with Pocahontas, Disney, right, Pinocchio, and even some of the tales that they used to inspire some of their movies, like the Brothers Grimm fairy tales. But I think really with this movie, they took a courageous leap because the animals don't move their mouths to speak. They're animals. It's almost like a National Geographic film. But I think it ended up paying off. The movie becomes much more emotional and impactful that way, and it becomes more realistic in a weird way, even though it's animated, even though it's fictitious, but it hits harder than most other animated films. But like I said, plenty of scenes in the movie that are amazing. The score is phenomenal. The story's beautiful. It has so much, like I said, so much emotion, so much passion in there, and you could just see it in the way that it's made. And it's such a shame it didn't really do that well in the box office, and DreamWorks has tried to revive the IP through a series and then through a movie actually recently. None of that really did very well. Now, granted, the recent movie that did come out looked kind of bad. It's such a shame because the first movie is phenomenal. It's a masterpiece, I think. But so many scenes to choose from, but I figured with this video, I would choose one scene, and it's fairly in the beginning of the movie that really, I think, impacted me. And it's sort of, I think, reminds me a lot of my childhood. And I got some sort of interesting things to say after we watch the scene and we analyze it and that sort of thing. Hopefully you're up for that. It's so precious. It's so cute. That adult humor in there. It's so cute. Oh my god. Just look at that. I love Bryan Adams' voice. Aww. This little trot. Oh, it's so cute. Oh. Oh, this little trip. Everything he does is cute. Everything he does. God. Oh Lord, what's going on? Ah, that score, man. That's brilliant. The buffaloes, too, of course. Native American symbol, of course.
And so I grew from colt to stallion, as wild and reckless as thunder over the land, racing with the eagle, soaring with the wind. Flying? There were times I believed I could.
Oh, amazing.
Like my father before me, I became leader of the Cimarron herd. And with that honor came responsibility.
That's brilliant. God. It's inevitable. It makes you happy. It makes you happy to see this movie, this scene. If it doesn't move you, I don't know, you're weird. You have like no heart or something. I think one of the things that is very important to highlight with this movie, and really a lot of great children's movies, is that it's incredibly hard to balance something very emotionally powerful and something that is catered to kids, right? But there's ways to make the movie enjoyable for both parties, right? Adults and kids. And there's ways to make it a masterpiece, you know, objectively, you know? Like, I don't think you go to the average cinephile and just ask them, hey, tell me like your top 5 favorite films. Most likely they're not going to have a children's movie in there, okay, or an animated film. But it doesn't, I don't like that, actually, you know? I recently saw If, for example, in the theaters, directed by John Krasinski, a movie that really not a lot of people have seen and a lot of people should go and see. And I think it's a masterpiece. And then I look at Spirit, and I think it's also a masterpiece. These are incredible, incredible films that deserve to be as high and as widely regarded as normal films, I guess, right? But of course, thanks to, you know, even thanks to Sony with the Into the Spider-Verse franchise, a lot of people are starting to open their eyes a little bit more to animation and consider it cinema, if you will, right? Spirit does such a great job of, like I said, balancing both. This scene in particular is very, I think, very child-friendly, of course. It's very cute, very precious, and the music is fun, you know, and there's a lot of slapstick physical humor in there, so that's great. But what's interesting, right, is that there's no dialogue up until Matt Damon's narration, which there's not a lot of narration in this film. Not a lot. Like, the majority of it is just, you know, horse interaction and stuff like that. But as you can tell, the facial aspects, animation of the horses are very human-like, right? I think that's the one thing that they really needed to do. Otherwise, it would truly be National Geographic. But it's phenomenal, very emotive. I think the animation is incredible. I mean, just look at the grass in the beginning scene. Just look at the landscapes, the cinematography, the snow, the way it, you know, the physics of it, the animation of the horses, right? I mean, the facial animation. It's very emotive, very expressive. The way they move is phenomenal as well. The way the Spirit himself, the way he trots, it's perfectly animated. And you know what's interesting is that rewatching this whole movie, not just this scene, nostalgia is so interesting because you see it, you experience it in your adulthood or whenever you experience it, and it's so familiar to you, but yet so new. It's like the perfect feeling, right? That's how I felt watching this film again. Everything in this film, the way Spirit looks, everything he does, the shots of his face, the shots of the landscape, the animation, the plot points of the movie, everything that happens, I've seen it all. I remember seeing that when I was a kid. You know, and I felt something at the time. I feel like I do remember that. Feeling something, the movie connecting with me, right? Knowing that it was a pretty movie, knowing that when there was a sad scene, even as a kid, I knew that it was sad, right? And growing up, I longed for that, and then I watched it and then I fully got it back. I fully understood. It's so interesting. It's almost like, when you're a kid and you experience something, it's like you're halfway there. And then when you're an adult and you experience it again, it comes full circle. It's kind of like that. I don't know. It truly does feel like you're marrying something that you've been with, for a long time. And it's beautiful. And that's how I feel watching this movie. It just, everything that happens, I've seen before, but it still feels like the first time. But the feeling that all these scenes are supposed to invoke, I've felt. And now I understand it more. Now I can piece it together better. Now I can analyze it better and know exactly what it is and talk about it, thoroughly, right? And sort of in a sophisticated manner. But the feeling's the same. Isn't that something? And, there's also a lot of things too with nostalgia is that, for example, with me, and this is a deep cut for all of you Super Jesus Jackson fans, but, you know that I love sound, that I love music. And that I love sound effects. And I love sound effects in movies and video games and music, in life. Like I love walking on gravel. It's such a satisfying sound to me. Walking on dirt, especially having moccasins and loafers, walking on like, that London, pebbly road, that the sound of that, it's very, very satisfying to me. The sound of creaking movie chairs, all that stuff. I could name so many other things. Rug on a wooden floor and like heavy boots on it, that sort of thing. And I've also always loved galloping horse noises, just the sound of it hitting on the ground or grass or whatever. Just the intensity of it. It's such a satisfying sound, right? And the scene where he's running with the eagle and he's galloping all over this green land. It's such a satisfying sound. And I remember even when I was a kid loving that, and I wanted to emulate that. I wanted to be a horse, for God's sakes. Like I wanted to run like that and make that sound and be a horse, isn't that crazy? You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's the whole chicken or the egg argument. Like, was I always predisposed to liking that sound, or did Spirit help me get there? Is it a combination, or is Spirit the reason why I love horse galloping noises, and then it sort of went into my love of sound in general? It's all these things that you're like, how did this happen? Or was it natural? But I remember when I was a kid, I loved it, but it's like I said, chicken or the egg, it's so interesting. I was browsing too other scenes in the movie because I remember one that sticks out to me, and it sort of goes in line with what I said in the beginning of the video, where I think the movie stands out because, like I said, it doesn't really have dialogue other than Matt Damon's narration and other than, of course, the army, the colonel and stuff like that. Oh, and then, of course, the Little Creek, the Lakota Native American. But really, it's fairly, a silent animal movie, you know what I mean? Like, technically. But the animals emote, of course, with their faces, and they make noises, and we know when they're sad, when they're mad, when they're happy. We know that. And it's honestly beautiful to see it without dialogue. It truly is. There's a particular scene that I remember when Spirit gets captured. The cinematography is amazing of the scene. It's nighttime, contrast to this scene's daytime. But I love, when he gets captured, you get a little bit more sunlight in there. You get a little bit of the light, which is beautiful. And the animation of the horse is amazing. And then he starts getting captured. And of course, this is bringing, just in general, it's awful to see a wild animal get caught like that. But also you can think of it, when you think of Native Americans or African Americans in history, right? It's very powerful imagery, right? And you hear just the the tormenting screams of the yelps of the horse, and it is just, it's heartbreaking. And you see his mother trying to get to him, and the sound of the pebbles too. I remember that specifically. I love that sound, but it was heartbreaking. I knew that it was awful and sad, and the contrast too of him being sort of in this dim night light, and then his family, his herd, is kind of getting a little bit of the taste of this of the sun, the break of dawn, and the contrast. Clearly one side is free and the other one is tormented in chaos and in depression. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful contrast. Very small details like that really make the film just go the mile and really make it a masterpiece to me. But those yelps from that horse, oh my God. And what's interesting too is that they reuse a lot of horse noises, and these yelps that Spirit does here in this capture scene, you hear throughout multiple times in this scene, and it's like I kind of noticed that they kind of changed them. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure they recorded these are natural horse noises, or maybe not. Maybe they were artificial. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's impressive. And then manipulated them to make them slightly different, but you can tell that they're the same ones. And I think it's just so interesting. In many ways, it makes it human. It makes it cool. It makes it interesting. But hey, I mean, different ones would have been great too. That would have been accurate, right? But the human error, I guess, is interesting and makes the film more authentic, right? But anyways, those are my thoughts on this scene from Spirit, the 2002 animated film. And then my thoughts on this other powerful scene from the film as well. I just had to talk about both of them a little bit, and really in general just encapsulate my love for this film. It does not get enough praise. I'm pretty sure every kid my age remembers this movie, and my girlfriend did, and she's only 2 or 3 years younger than me, so a lot of people my age, I'm 25, remember this film. But I'm curious about all of the rest of you. Do you think this film is underrated? Do you think it needs more love? Do you think it needs more recognition? I don't know. I totally think it does. It deserves a 4K, that's for sure. I watched it on Blu-ray, and it was still phenomenal. The sound is incredible. Hans Zimmer did an amazing job, and it is also one of his most underrated scores, I think. But again, let me know in the comment section below what you think of this film. Do you think I'm saying things that resonate with you? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. Like this video if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. Share with your Spirit-loving friends, your animation-loving friends, whatever it is. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And if it's your birthday, happy birthday to you, you beautiful creature. But I think that's it for me. You all take care. Stay safe, and until next time, I love you.